Yes, I am. I'm just
All right.
unmuting myself.
Hey, very good. Nice to see you this morning. We've got 10 minutes. Thank you.
Kia ora. Yeah, so I want to leave lots of time for questions, so I'm assuming that you've all read our submission.
Of course.
I'd just like to reinforce a couple of points that we believe in a 4-year term, but we do not believe in the concept that it's a 3-year term that's voted on, and then the government decides it's 4 years. We think that's actually undemocratic, and that people voting should know whether it's a 3 or 4 year term. But regardless of whether it goes to 3 or 4 years, we do believe there needs to be some checks and balances. We think that the proportionality requirement is retained, even though references to the 3 years is removed. And we'd also like to see that the impact statement is actually also required of a government should they actually decide to ignore the recommendation and impact statements applied by the Select Committee, or they are looking to pass legislation under urgency. To us, it was a real concern. We wrote this before the pay equity issue, but the fact that it actually reiterates why we put that there, because there was no regulatory impact statement attached to that urgency discussion. There was no, that makes it really unfair to people going forward to actually be able to know that the government knew what the impact would have been with this urgency statement, and that everyone who actually going forward would have known that the government knew what the impact statement would be. So we think those checks and balances need to be put in place to ensure that we actually don't slip, as our previous person said, into an authoritarian parliamentary system, because we need to have one, no matter who's in government, that ensures that the meaning of MMP is actually retained in Parliament, where we actually work together to try and get a consensus rather than each time and government changes, we actually just go urgency wholesale to actually remove what's been put in place, rather than actually looking and actually working together to actually get better parliamentary processes and better policy. Thank you.
All right, good submission. Now, questions?
I'll have a question.
Dr. Webb?
Kia ora, Karena. Good to see you. Just wanting to be clear that you want to essentially decouple the Select Committee rules, but you still want those Select Committee rules to be in the legislation. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, we do. So we just, at the moment, they only come into place should the government decide to actually go to a 4-year term. If they've been elected on a 3-year term, our view is that it should only be a 4-year term that gets elected on, so everyone knows that they're voting for a 4-year term. But we still believe that the process itself, the Select Committee majority for the non-executive, is actually quite a good concept, and that and the impact statement comes out, and we know that governments might very well, if there's a majority, decide that they don't want to agree with what is coming out of Select Committee, which is fine, it's the right of the government, but they should also then do a new impact statement, so that it's quite clear when a government is voting on policy, on a legislation, that the impact's known, it's advertised, and that everyone actually has access to it. So in future, when they decide who they're going to vote for at the next election, they can see what kind of policy was passed and what statements they actually made around it.
All right, good. Now we've got Miss Celia Wade-Barrow.
Tēnā koe, Karena, thank you. Thank you for the submission. I had a couple of questions. One is in relationship with, okay, I'll just do one. Got 6 minutes. Local government. You don't mention local government anywhere in your submission. Do you feel that the terms should be the same? And if so, what's the timing of the 2 elections?
Yes, I do think that the timing should be the same. We didn't choose to put that in there as we thought we have to come under a separate bill, and we would submit on that. We do believe they're the same. We feel that because otherwise you could end up having a local government election and a parliamentary election at the same time, and you don't want to have that. They need to be quite separate, as they're both important in their own right. As to when I actually probably slightly disagree with you, is that I like the fact that they actually occur prior to the parliamentary elections. And so, but yeah, we tend to think that because local government, it's a good litmus to actually let people know how you're going, because it's local government to me is the bread and butter of what our voters are about, because that's what impacts on them often the most, with their rates, with their eroding, with their housing, social housing, etc. And that it should be an indicator to any government coming in where they need to focus their attention. And that's why I like the fact that the local governments should come first, and governments should actually take on board what's happening in local governments, what people are voting for in local governments. And in fact, we should be looking at ways to prioritise local government and ensuring we actually improve the participation rates in local government, which aren't occurring at the moment because it's such a waste, because it's such an important part of people's lives.
Hey, thank you, Karena. That's a very good submission. All right. Thank you very much. Right now.
How do you take what you two said?
Same. What do you think?
Okay, I mean, I say it got a very good part on there. Yeah, okay. Next up is Daisy Orbell.
On to Mr. Purnell.
Excuse me. We've got 4 minutes.
Do you want another question?
I said I had 2 questions. You said I could only ask one.
Okay, what was the second?
Yes, it's a question about if you've had opposition majorities on select committees, do you not think that would potentially, in a relatively adversarial rather than consensus system, which we tend to have at the moment, would actually create a legislative logjam?
We considered that, and we think no, because what's actually happening at the moment is that it's actually what actually happens is when governments are passing policies that are seen as quite extreme, with having majorities on select committees, what happens is you end up with having minority statements from the opposition parties that are completely ignored by the governments, and the legislation's passed no matter what the actual feelings of the submitters or the select committee is. By actually having it the other way round, it requires the government. So yes, they can still actually they get the select committee recommendation, and and it might be in the opposition or have major changes to what the bill looks like. It actually makes that government have to look at it and say, okay, let's have a look at how many submissions were received. Were they saying that? Were they supportive? Because in reality, in times if the select committee is getting a lot of supportive submissions to the thing, then it doesn't look good if they suddenly go, okay, we know that 90% of the people supported this to occur, but we're now going to actually say no, we don't want it to, because then it becomes it shows their adversarial nature of the opposition's bench. I think it actually will lead to more consensus because and it'll actually make fairer bill writing and hopefully stop the extremes that occur when governments change.
Right. Thank you very much. Hey, nice for that. Right. Mr. Purnell, is it?
Okay. Interesting what happens when things get taken through middle of select committees. Yeah, Daisy or Bell?
Mr. Purnell, are you there?